Hello everyone, welcome to one more podcast of the Athletic School. Today our guest speaker is Dr. Alo. He's a cardiologist, author, speaker, personal trainer, and today he's our guest speaker. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Doctor, I just would like to ask you a little bit about your story. I know a little bit, but I wanted to know how you started. Now you're famous on TikTok as well and talking about different topics. So when did you decided to become a doctor? Did you always wanted to be a doctor? Did you always wanted to be an author, a writer, and a speaker? How if you could go over your story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. My family moved here in 1984. I was like maybe 9 or 10 or something like that. I went to schools here in Sylvania. Eventually went to St. John's High School. I always wanted to be a doctor, but when I got to college, I really liked finance and economics, so I studied a lot of economics and business. I still did all my pre-medical courses because I still wanted to be a doctor. I applied to medical schools. I didn't get accepted right away, so I started working in business, networking, computers. Computers was just starting. The internet was starting. And I knew how to program, so I was making websites for companies.
Cool.
No one knew how to do that. This was before Google, before everything. Then I went to medical school. I was always an athlete. I always played football, like tackle football, American football.
right.
Not soccer.
Yeah.
Coach Igor coaches my kid in soccer, but we call it soccer. But
the real football.
It's football. But I played American football, and I coach all the sports. I went to Chicago. I moved to Chicago. I did medical school. I did my college at University of Toledo.
Oh, okay.
My degree was economics. And then I went to medical school in Chicago, did all of my training, became a cardiologist. I felt like cardiology went well with sports, nutrition, coaching, all of that. So when we moved back to Toledo, my kids were younger. They were like the oldest 2 or 4 and 2. We didn't even have the younger ones. We didn't have Zeki yet. And then he was born actually the year we moved here, 2012. When we moved back, he was born. So then my younger kid, my older 2 needed coaches, and it was volunteer coaches, parent coaches. I started coaching them. So I really got into coaching because I feel like if you put the kids in the right position on each play, especially soccer, and soccer, when there's I'm sure you know this, but when there's like when they have to pass the ball in or like throw it in, or the goalie is kicking it, or they're taking a shot, or they're centering the ball, anytime where you could do a set play, corner kicks, it can make a big difference. Like I remember reading a statistic where even in the English Premier League, on throw-ins, the team that throws it in only retains possession 55% of the time. So it's almost a coin flip. So I would always teach my kids just throw it towards the other team's goal and then run. And things like that. Like if their team's goalie is kicking it, just stand in front of him. They're not going to kick it that far, and they're probably going to kick it to you, and you get a free shot on goal. Same thing with center balls. I mean, you can't do that when the kids are older, but when they're younger, you could probably just kick it towards the goalie. Somebody else takes off, and you get a free shot at goal. But things like that, I just noticed there's a lot of things. So I actually wrote a soccer coaching book too.
Oh, really?
I actually need to bring you one of those.
Oh, of course.
And that developed over the years, like 10 years worth of coaching soccer. I coach football too, flag football, and tackle football. Zeki will be starting flag football soon.
Yeah, he always wants to play
year.
football.
Yeah, we didn't think he would like soccer, but we put him in it and he liked it. So his sister is fantastic. I don't know if you know his sister. Razan, I'm sure you've seen all her videos. She scores with her left and right, so she's a fantastic athlete. And my older boy plays basketball. He played football too when he was younger. But I became a certified personal trainer about 5-6 years ago because I wanted to combine cardiology and what we know with the medicine and the science of cardiology with what we know from bodybuilding, weight loss from that, and all those kind of things. I've always been lecturing on weight loss and various topics for many, many years. And the amount of evidence and data that we have on weight loss now, there's almost no question that we don't have an answer to. When I first started lecturing, 10, 15 years ago, it was like, we're not really sure what the answer is on that one. Well, we don't know. But now we know almost everything you can ask, like is keto better for heart health, or is keto better than intermittent fasting, or how can you make intermittent fasting healthier? Does it matter what kind of carbs you're eating? Does it matter if you're eating no carbs or total carbs, or all those kind of things we now have the answers to. We know that the best way, that no matter how you want to lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. And that just means eating less than you need.
Right.
Everybody knows this, but they try all these tricks and gimmicks to get to that point. They do keto, and if you do keto, you subtract out carbs, which is 65 to 70% of your calories usually, you'll absolutely lose weight. Or if you do intermittent fasting, you're eating from 1 to 4 p.m., no matter what, you're going to lose weight because you subtracted, almost 60% of your calories from the rest of the day.
Right.
Almost any diet, if it works, it's because you're in a calorie deficit. So I try to stress to my patients and people, listen, all of your health markers improve. We've measured inflammation, we've measured heart disease, cholesterol, diabetes, insulin-resistant blood pressure. If you lose weight, all of those things get better, and it doesn't even matter what you ate to get there. It doesn't matter if you emphasized meat or carbs or fat or any diet. As long as you lost weight, all of your health markers improve. So I felt that really went well with sports and coaching and personal training. I had a lot of friends asking me, how do I lose weight? I want to build muscle. How do you build muscle while losing fat at the same time? And there's all these interrelated things, and all of it is research backed. We know so much now about the human body and physique athletes and performance that we know how to optimize for health. We know how to optimize for endurance. We know how to optimize for muscle building. We know how to optimize for strength. All of those are different modalities. If you want to run marathons, you need endurance. If you want to lift heavy weights, you need strength. If you just want bigger muscles to look good like a bodybuilder, that's a totally different thing. There is some crossover between them. But an endurance athlete looks like, you look at the marathon runners, they're super thin and slim. You look at a sprinter or a soccer player or somebody who has like explosive movements, they're big and muscular. You look at bodybuilders, they're very big muscles, but not always necessarily strong.
Right.
You look at strength competitors or power lifters, they can lift heavy weights, but they're fat and obese sometimes, and they don't look like what a bodybuilder looks like. So there's different ways to optimize for different things, and I felt that really went well with cardiology, plus the coaching, plus training my athletes. All my kids are all athletes. They all play sports. Even the 5-year-old, she's 5 now. She's 7 now. But even them, like all the way down to the youngest age, all the way to my high school kids, you need to optimize for whatever sport or goal they have. So I felt that really went well together.
I agree. And so from what I'm taking is, I was gonna ask you what is to be a healthy person and everything, but I guess it depends on your goals, right? But what is some takeaways that people can get it from now, that you can say, you should do this and you should do that, and just to be healthy. The top 10 things you need to be healthy is number 1, quit smoking. Number 2, quit smoking. Number 3, quit smoking. Number 4, all the way to 10. The top 10 things you can do is quit smoking. Not that many people smoke anymore, but I see a lot of young people starting to use the vapes. That's not good for you either. It's almost the same thing. The risk isn't as high as actual cigarette smoke, but it comes very, very close. The next thing would be to try to stay as close to your ideal body weight as possible. So if you're 5'10", you're supposed to weigh like 170, maybe 185 pounds, right? If you're a female, it's a little bit less. If you're 5'2" female, you're looking like at 125 up to maybe 145, something like that. So if the closer you are to your ideal body weight, the better. The more fat tissue you carry around, the higher your inflammation. They've done studies where they looked at people across all BMIs, and that's just body mass index, like skinny people all the way to very obese people. The more obese you are, the more inflammation you had, which contributes a lot to chronic diseases. Diabetes, hypertension, heart attacks, strokes, all of that is worsened by being inactive, obviously, and being obese. Number 1 is obesity. Number 1 would be smoking, but not that many people smoke. But obesity right now is the biggest problem. 75% of adults are overweight, and almost 20% of children up to age 19 are overweight. So this is like the next biggest problem that our country is facing, and the world. Everywhere in the world, whether it's Europe or South America or even China, everywhere you look, obesity is on the rise because they've all adapted more, instead of Mediterranean style diets or like healthy, wholesome diet, they've all adapted like a standard Western American diet. And that's not usually healthy and not good. It's all easy. Fast food. So easy to eat, and I think it goes a little like against our nature. Like back then, you would go hunt, You know, you need to walk miles and miles to eat, and right now, let me just get out of the bed, get a bag of chips, and just eat a while.
But they've even studied those people that hunt and gather. They've done studies on them to see how much calories they burn. Duke professor called Dr. Herman Ponzer. He wrote an entire book on it called Burn. He studies the Hadza tribe. They're in Tanzania, in sub-Saharan Africa. They spend 8 hours a day running around hunting, and the women go look for fruits and tubers. They dig up vegetables from the ground. The amount of calories they burn is not that much different than what we burn, but it has to do with how they eat and what they're eating and how much they're eating. Like he's actually compared most men in the United States, as well as the Hadza tribes, they need about 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day. Women is usually 2,000 to 2,500 if you're pretty active. Most people are not active these days, so they don't need that much. But he compared them to Americans, and we have similar needs in terms of the amount of calories we need. It's this thing called metabolic adaptation or adaptive thermogenesis, where your body, if you're less active and you just sit on a computer all day, like here in the U.S., we just sit on computers and work, right? Your body downregulates the amount of your metabolism, the amount of activity you do. So you can eat more calories, and those calories that you're eating, if they're more than you need, you'll gain weight. Whereas the tribe, even though they're running around all day hunting and fishing and whatever, their thermogenesis is the same because the body adapts to what they're doing. Right. I mean, it's way more complicated than that, but there's lots of people that say, well, we should just eat like our ancestors. Well, that turns out not to be true, because those kind of foods are atherogenic. If you eat just red meat, for example, let's say somebody's on a keto diet and they're eating only red meat and tons of fat, butter and everything and all that, it's very atherogenic. You're going to increase your cholesterol and your LDL. And ultimately, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you're going to be having strokes and heart attacks. But people don't know that now because they're young. They're like 20 years old, 30 years old. They think it's okay because, I'm losing weight, I'm getting healthier, which is true. If you lose weight, you will get healthier, but you can't stay on that for a long time. Right. Let's say you do a year of keto and you're eating very, red meat and butter and all these kind of things. Your LDL and cholesterol are going to go up. So it's a lifetime exposure to LDL that causes heart disease. The longer your LDL is elevated for more years, the worse it is. So if you do a keto diet for 1 year and stop, and then go to a Mediterranean style diet, you'll probably be okay. But there is damage being done when your LDL is that high on the high saturated fat diet. And saturated fats are fats that are solid at room temperature. Butter, bacon, cheese, coconut oil, margarine, lard, chicken skin, animal fat, those kind of things. The most tested diet and the most proven diet to reduce cancer, it reduces about 13 different kinds of cancer that we know of. It's probably more that we've tested, and reduces heart disease, is a Mediterranean style diet, which is whole grains, fruits, vegetables, salmon, olive oil, nuts, beans, legumes, kind of like natural food. Right. What like our parents would make, most likely. Something natural, without tons of processing and butter and everything and all that. So that stuff makes a huge difference. It's the optimal diet, and there's different variations. Some people can use more lean meats like turkey and chicken as opposed to salmon if you don't like salmon or fish. Other places use the fish they catch, or shellfish or whatever, shrimp, whatever. But it all works, and you just have to get your weight down. If there's anything you could take away from this, get your weight down, no matter how. And if it's a Mediterranean style diet, that's even better.
And when we go to the other side, when we talk about performance, there's a lot of athletes that are listening to us, and they want to not only lose weight but also increase their performance. Is there anything that they should be careful? Is there a drawback in when you are looking for performance from a cardiologist's point of view? Is there anything that we should be careful?
So there are a few things that cause sudden death in athletes. We call it sudden cardiac death, SCD. Athletes can have that, but usually they're screened for it. And the number one cause is something called hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, which is the heart muscle. The heart muscle is supposed to pump, but the heart muscle gets so thick that there's no more space in there. It's a genetic disorder. You inherit it from your dad's side usually. That's why it's mostly males. But the muscle gets so thick when you exercise, there's no more space for the blood, and blood is not going forward, it's not going to your brain, it's not going to your heart, so you have a heart attack, not a heart attack, you have a cardiac arrest. But if it's open and it's pumping normal, even if it's pumping fast, it's pumping enough blood. One in about every 500 athletes has that. It's really easy to screen for if you get an ultrasound of your heart. That would be, a super rare thing. But for the vast majority of athletes, if you want to be an endurance athlete, like you're running cross country or you're running 400, 500, 800 yards or meters, you want to practice that. You will need to eat carbs if you're going to do long endurance runs, obviously. If you're an explosive sport athlete like soccer, football, things where you run, stop, you need strength. You need to, and you'll notice their bodies are different. People who run 20 miles or 10.5 kilometers or whatever, they're going to have very lean bodies because muscle is a very expensive tissue. Your body wants to get rid of muscle if all you're doing is running marathons because it's heavy, it needs oxygen, it needs nutrients, whereas fat is not very expensive, it's just storage. So your body gets rid of muscle if you're running, very extreme endurances. Also, extreme endurance athletes like extreme marathoners, they have a higher cardiac risk. They're more prone to get deadly heart rhythms. They're more prone to get abnormal heart rhythms that are not deadly even. Their calcium score, the amount of plaque and buildup they have in their arteries and their heart goes up. So extreme marathoning is a different class. I don't think we're talking about those. But explosive athletes, or what they call mid-distance runners, like soccer players, for example, you have to practice those kinds of things. Like you have 40 meters or 40 yards. You run from here to here as fast as you can. It's called a 40-yard dash. We do that in football. Soccer has a similar thing. 100 meters is the international thing that they do in track and field. But those are things you want to practice. You want to do explosive movements. Like if there's a box, it doesn't even have to be that high. The athlete stands here and jumps on the box with all of their energy, all of their body, all of their effort. If you just do 10 of those with all your energy, all super explosive, you'll build up that kind of like massive explosive kind of like speed that you need for something like soccer. Now a mid player, a midfielder in soccer, they've tagged them and they can run 6 to 10 miles in a game. Now that's a 90-minute game, not like our kids. But a 90-minute game, a midfielder can easily run 6 to 10 miles. They need more endurance, whereas like a forward and a defender might not do that. So those are the ones that need a little bit more endurance style training. And then strength athletes, like if you're an offensive lineman in football and you need to push the guy in front of you as hard as you can, you need to practice that. You need to be like bench pressing, squatting, deadlifting, all the things to make you stronger. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit overweight because you can use that inertia and that movement. You weigh 300 pounds, the guy in front of you is 220, you are probably going to kill him, right? So those kind of athletes need that kind of training. So it really just depends. And then there are some things that you need to be like really fast mentally, like baseball, to hit a ball or a golf ball, or a goalie in soccer, a goalie, if they have a penalty shot coming at them, they have to be able to react quickly. You might guess going this way, but you might be, if it's slow enough, you might be able to react and come back. So those kind of people need like quick mental hand-eye, coordination. That would be a little bit different. But those people, and so it really depends on what you're training for and what you need. You have to cater it. Now everybody needs a little bit of everything. No matter what kind of athlete you are, you need a little bit of everything.
I agree.
Most of the endurance you get by playing your sport, like my daughter who's 12, she plays soccer. She gets most of her endurance from that, but we did put her in cross country too because now she's fantastic. She never comes off the field because she's never needs to. She's super athletic and has really good endurance. Other players need the actual skill. Like one of my kids, he's not very good at soccer. He needs actual soccer skills, but he's a great athlete. He plays football really well. He's fast. He's coordinated. But he needs soccer skills. So you have to cater it to the athlete and see what they need.
And I agree with you because I remember for me as a goalkeeper, a lot of goalkeepers, we don't need to run, around the field because we don't really use that. But there was a goalkeeper coach of mine that he used to say, well, in order for you to have a good training session, you need to be fit enough to get as many balls as you can. And in order to do that, you need to be able to endure, and you need to be fit. So yes, we need to run. So of course, we don't run during the game, but like during practice, I need to catch that ball 100 times, because maybe in the game I will have one ball, one chance, and I need to be able to save that. So
and you probably need strength too, because if they, especially adults, if they shoot the ball at you hard, you have to be able to stop it and catch it and endure the blast.
Definitely.
It's a big blast. You know, those guys can kick the ball really, really hard. I know the little kids. I tell my daughter, she has a really strong leg. I'm like, listen, just kick it hard. None of these 12-year-old goalies are going to stop your ball. They're going to go like. And it's going to go in. Just shoot it as hard as you can. Right. She used to tell me when she was younger that she's afraid of kicking it hard at them because she doesn't want to hurt them. Nobody ever died in soccer.
Right, I used to tell some of our boys, and like I said, hey, the ball is not going to hurt you that much, you know. It might hurt like for 3 seconds, but you'll be fine. Like it's
nothing
okay.
Bad will happen.
Just going on. We talk a lot about food, and you mentioned like a good diet in terms of like curing cancer or kind of healing from a cancer in a standpoint. But what is a good diet? What is something that people, of course, like we mentioned, everyone has different goals. But what are some of the key points that someone should have in their diet?
So the thing that I teach people the most, whether it's in my YouTube videos or my patients or even just talking on social media, I want people to have a really good relationship with food. So a lot of people label food as good, like healthy, or unhealthy, like really bad. Like donuts or pizza, they're going to say ice cream, this is so bad. And like, you know, kale and quinoa, so good, right? But that's not true. It's just food. If you need a little bit of, like let's say you calculate out your calories and you know how much fat, how much protein, how much carbs you need every day, and you need a little bit more carbs and fat, why not eat a donut? Right. If you deprive yourself of donuts, you're going to develop a bad relationship with food, and you're going to be like restricting, then you're just going to binge on a whole pizza one day. There's no reason to do that. I tell people 80-20, use the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, eat mostly good, healthy food that people would consider good and healthy. 20% of the time, if you want to have ice cream or a cookie or a pizza, it's okay. And if your diet is only ice cream and cookies and pizza, if you're eating the right amount of calories, you will probably be fine, as long as you don't gain weight. It's still not better than a wholesome diet, like a Mediterranean style diet, because those long term will be better. But like telling a kid, we're going to go to a pizza party, but you can't have pizza. Like, what?
Why should we go then?
Or you can't ever have ice cream. Right. Like, what kind of kid is going to agree to that? Like, if you want to eat ice cream, teach them, here's the ice cream, eat a little bit of it, put the rest in the freezer, eat it tomorrow. Like, what's, it's not a big deal, but don't eat the whole thing. So, like, having a really good relationship with food, I think, is super important, especially in children, because they're going to carry that into adulthood. They have this thing called diet culture or diet trauma, where people just remember the way mom used to talk about food, or the way their friends made fun of them when they see them eating a donut or a cookie or a Snickers bar. Like, they have all this diet trauma just from the comments people made, the way people think about food, and it's horrible. It causes eating disorders, it causes problems. So I try not to do that. I tell my kids, listen, we can eat whatever we want, it just has to be the right amount. Right. You want to eat a pizza, but not the whole thing. You know, like you're like Zeki, for example, you're 10 years old, bro. You don't need the whole pizza. He can never eat it. But if you eat one slice and a little bit of, whatever else there is that day, it's cool. It's not a big deal. You'll still be healthy. You'll still be whatever. But like fueling for hard sports, like if someone's going to run a marathon, you can't just show up and run, 26 miles or, 10 kilometers, whatever it is, I don't know, 10K. Whatever a marathon is, 26.2 miles, that's a lot. That's not something you can just show up and run. You have to prepare, you have to make sure you're hydrated, you have to eat enough carbs, you have to get your muscle glycogen stores to fill up with glycogen, which means overeating carbs. It's not that easy. But a regular soccer game that's 5, 10, 20 minutes, or a 5K run that's like 20 minutes, 40 minutes at the most, those are not that big of a deal. But also you worry about injury. Like some of my older patients, they're like 50, 60 years old, and now suddenly they want to start running. They're going to trip and hurt their knee, and they're 300 pounds or 260 pounds, they're overweight, and now they're injuring themselves because they just suddenly decide to start running. You can't just suddenly decide to start running. You have to work your way up. lose a little bit of weight, start by walking,
Right.
Do anything slowly. You don't take a kid and just put him in goalie, right?
Yeah.
He's going to get killed.
Of course.
Same thing with like one of my kids. He didn't want to play football. You can't put him in football because he will get tackled and get injured if he doesn't want to be there. So you have to prepare for whatever athletic performance or thing you're trying to do to keep the kids safe, or adults, whoever it is, to keep them safe so that they like it and don't injure themselves either.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of the things that you're talking about, I feel like it always goes to kind of like having a good mindset,
Yes.
And we talk a lot about mindset here because we really believe that mindset, kind of like your mindset controls your body, and there's a big relationship between performance and mindset. And I know you have the course, the mindset weight loss. So I wanted you to talk about that a little bit. What's the importance of a mindset for someone that wants to not only improve their performance, but in weight loss? I think that's when the mindset is a big part of that. So
so mindset is everything. If you're trying to quit smoking, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to become a better athlete, if you want to run a marathon, if you want to do anything, you have to have the right mindset. So many of my patients are like, I'm trying to quit weight, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to quit smoking, and they really aren't.
Yeah.
But then one time a patient comes in, he's like, I lost 70 pounds. Well, how did you do it? He's like, I just made up my mind. I just decided I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And it's really a mindset, and especially athletes. Like you've seen this, I'm sure. You have two athletes, A, fantastic player, B, fantastic player. A, doesn't practice, doesn't care, lazy, doesn't show up. B, comes early, stays late, shows up, hires his own coach, works with a coach, loves practicing, comes home from practice and practices by themselves. It's totally mindset. If you want to reach the highest level, you have to be in the right mindset, and you have to want it yourself. Like I have 4 kids, right? Not all of them want to practice soccer or football all the time. But a few of them, like when they come home from practice, they want to practice more. There's a big difference between somebody who's working on their game, has the right mindset, wants to get better, and then someone who comes home is like, I'm good enough, I'm okay. And they might be similar skills, but the one that has the right mindset over time will be way better. And I know colleges that are looking for athletes, Division I athletes, or even professional teams.
Right.
They have 2 people with the same skills, but one has a better attitude, loves practice, practices all the time, lifts weights on their own, eats right, does everything right, but this guy's more skilled. They'll take the guy that has a better attitude, can work harder, all of that. I mean, you know that.
For sure.
You're a coach, so you see it all the time.
Yeah.
There's 2 kids, very skilled, but one is always trying to get better, and one really doesn't care. It's a huge difference. But I think when it comes to those kind of things, you have to flip a switch. And sometimes some kids are just born that way. Like, you've coached some athletes. I have too. I've coached a lot of kids. Some of them they just have it. Like some of the parents will send me a picture, say, look, Andrew is studying his football plays instead of math. Like in the middle of the night, can you please message him to do his math homework before he studies his football plays? So there's going to be kids that are like, when they get home, they get the playbook and they're reading it and they're studying it and they're practicing with dad and they're doing all this thing by themselves. And then there's kids that are just like, they show up to practice late and they have to leave early and they need to go to the dentist, and it's not a priority for them. So I think mindset is everything, whether it's health or sports, performance, quitting smoking, losing weight, getting healthier, changing your diet, helping someone else get healthier. Almost everything in life has to do with mindset, and it's super important. I feel like that's the number one step, and then everything else is later.
Right. I agree. And you talk about your patient, and for me becoming vegan, I had, of course, different reasons because I became vegan. But one of the things that made me not eating meat and not wanting to eat meat anymore was my mindset. Like I said, okay, I don't see that as food anymore. I see as a dead animal. So for me, it doesn't make sense. When I thought of that, okay, I mean, it was done. I never wanted to eat again because my mindset wasn't the right place for that. And another thing you mentioned,
and you can be totally healthy eating just vegan. They say there's 2 kinds of cardiologists. Ones that are vegan and ones that don't understand the data yet.
Well, I'm glad you
because you will live
data.
Longer if you eat a more plant-based. I mean, look, the Mediterranean diet is basically plant-based and a little bit of fish, right? I mean, and you can say lean meat, but like salmon, lean meat. You can take the meat part away. that's still the healthiest diet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the meat part doesn't even matter. You just need some protein. I'm sure you found ways to get protein.
Yeah.
Do you drink dairy products at all, or nothing?
I don't.
Yeah, so you're going to have to mix different kinds of protein. They do make vegan protein powders if you're trying to build muscle or not lose it or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to just be a little creative with how much protein you get from different things. And there were studies in the past that showed that the bioavailability of plant protein is not as much as animal protein, but they've since said that that's not true.
Yeah.
If you eat the same amount of protein that's quality protein from plants compared to meat, you'll build the same amount of muscle, not lose the same amount of muscle, whatever your goal is. It's bioequivalent as long as you're getting the right amount. But it gets tricky getting that much protein when you're sticking to just plants, because the calories can go up.
Right.
But things like tofu, cheese, or nothing.
No.
So tofu, I don't do that.
Yeah, I do.
So tofu has it. Obviously, any soy product.
Yeah, tempeh.
Lentils. I mean, there's so many ways you can combine proteins to get all of them.
Right.
So it works.
Yeah. No. I mean, of course, it takes a little bit of time to learn everything that you and tofu is not the greatest, but you learn how to make it.
No, but it's okay. Like people say that if you eat soy and tofu, that it reduces testosterone. That's not actually true.
Yeah,
that's not true.
I've learned that.
It actually doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, people told me, and I started studying a little bit about it, and I noticed that wasn't true. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, just to wrap it up, I think, there's so many different topics that I can think that we could go hours talking. But, here we always ask the same question for our guest speakers. We usually bring different people to listen to different point of views. So my last question for you is how you define success. I know I didn't send that to you, so
that's okay.
You couldn't prepare that one. But it's something that we always ask because we are always looking, for greatness, to become a better version of ourselves, and that's kind of what we wanted to not necessarily teach, but to share with other people. And I think listen to what successful people that come to our podcast have to say. It's a great way to start.
So I think there's lots of ways to define success.
Yeah.
Some people want spiritual and peace success. Some people want financial success. Some people want physical success. The best is probably a little bit of everything. They usually say most people talk about health, wealth, and relationships, right? You want good health, you want to make enough to be able to live how you want to live, and you want to have good relationships with people, with your spouse, with your children, whatever. Those are the three main categories. And they always say if your goal is to get at least 1% better every day, and you accomplish that 1% better every day, and even if it's 0.1% every day, after 3-4 years, you're going to be doing very, very, very well. So I don't know that there's a perfect way to define success. I think for me personally, I get to help a lot of people. I have patients that come and see me, and I help them, live to see another day, or get healthier and whatnot. That's one part of success, because to me, I'm actually helping people with their lives, to live longer and healthier. But I love kids, I love family, I love doing things with the kids, coaching them, playing with them, doing activities with them. That to me is very successful. Me and my wife and kids have built a life where we can play with our kids whenever we want and do those kind of things. That makes us both very, very happy. Financial success is another one. We're obviously okay there, but some people want $1 billion. I don't know. Some people just want 100,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
But as long as that you're meeting that goal or you're working towards it, it's okay. And I know this is probably a college crowd. I'll tell your people, I was told by my pre-medical advisor to never apply to medical school. They're like, your grades are too bad. You should never apply to medical school. So don't feel bad. If the first time they tell you no, and then the second time they tell you no, and then the third time they tell you no. If you really want to do something, you will do it. You just have to keep trying. There's going to be a lot of failures. And most people don't realize that. Now you see you as a successful coach, that they don't know what happened, how you got here. Same thing with me. They see me as a cardiologist. I'm on TV, I'm on social media, whatever. I have followers, I have a YouTube channel, but they don't know all the stuff that happened the last 10, 15, 20 years to get to that point. But literally, my pre-med advisor told me, don't apply to medical school because you'll never get in. And so I have that saved. because this
That's
is stupid.
awesome.
Like who tells a kid in college that you're never going to be a doctor if you don't?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm going to be a doctor, and I found her later. This is after I became a doctor, and I didn't say anything because I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to say anything bad. I said, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, do you remember me? I was one of your students. I'm a cardiologist now. I moved back to Toledo. If you need anything, let me know. I'm not going to say, see, I told you. I mean, who does? That's very weird.
Yeah.
She'll never even remember me probably. She sees thousands of students every year. But like I think that one thing that I think young people do is they give up too early sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They get a C and they think, oh, I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
I got a C. Oh, I'm not good at this. Like I failed anatomy the first year of medical school. I failed anatomy. It's a hard class. So I hired a tutor and I got good at it, and I went back and I passed it. So, and there's been so many things along the way. I remember when I finished residency, I was applying to cardiology. They accepted me, but they said, we don't have funding for your spot. The government didn't approve to fund your spot. We can't take you. I said, I'll work for free. They said, what? I was like, you don't have to pay me. I'll just come and train. My wife, luckily, was working as a pharmacist, so we were okay. They said, okay, we don't want you to do that, and then they moved some things around, took some spots from some other places, and they found the funding. But so many times along the way, and you'll see this too, I don't know how old you are, but you'll see over time that somebody's going to tell you no, then another person's going to tell you no, then another person's going to tell you no. But if this is what you want to do, as long as you're moving there, but you might move back a little, then try this way, as long as you keep trying to get to what you want, you could be whatever you want. I mean, nobody's going to tell you no. Whatever you want to be, that's what you can be. And don't listen to anybody that says, no, you can't do it, or no, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. That stuff, it makes that person feel better that's saying that, but it also can hurt your confidence. Like I know, especially young people, they sometimes have insecurities and confidence issues about how they look or how smart they are or where they live or what they drive or how they dress. Like that stuff doesn't matter in the end. Like we were super poor. When my dad came to this country, we lived 5 kids in like a room like this. Like he made like $20,000 or whatever for 5 kids and a wife that didn't work. I mean, you have to just keep going, and eventually he did fine, but you have to just push and push and push and just keep going. No matter where you think you are, you can get to here, even if you're starting down here. It really doesn't matter. So I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think
and I think you're a commendable person. I posted on Instagram about you.
Yeah, I was gonna.
You brought the boys to your soccer game, even though you weren't gonna play.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like it takes a really special, amazing person to do that.
Yeah,
I was like blown away by this because I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. It shows you how much, how confident you are, and how much you mean to the boys.
Yeah,
so I thought that was very important.
And I was gonna say it meant a lot to me. That season wasn't an easy one, and I sent it to my mom, and my mom was crying when she saw, because she knew everything I was going through. So I mean, I was just gonna say that I really appreciate that, because it's not everyone noticed that, and I never did anything like that to people notice, and even. I think that picture that you took, that I was actually gathering the cones, everything, and everyone was sitting down, and like I was there to do because I knew I was supposed to do that, because I really believed in the purpose of doing the right thing. And
no, the boys loved it. They don't even know. They have no idea. They're like, we went to coach's game. They don't know. Like I'll tell you my story. I played football for St. John's. I never played in a real game other than like maybe 2 or 3 times. I was always the backup, but I loved it. I loved practice more than I loved the games because I knew I was good. I didn't really care, but the guy in front of me was gooder. He was better. So I knew that if our team was going to win, the coaches put him there for a reason. When we're winning by 31 points, or in football it's different, but let's say you're up 3-0, they would put me in, and we would play, and it was fun. I wasn't as good as the starter, but I was good enough. But I thought that was amazing, and not enough people talk about that or mention it or say it or even notice. But I know the boys didn't notice. They have no idea. They just had fun.
I mean, but of course awesome. it works as it's a way to, a little bit of gas to keep going. There's a quote that says, hard work pays off, but nobody tells you when.
That's true.
I truly believe that. but yeah, I mean, thanks so much for coming here, and I think it was a great talk. A lot of people can take a lot from that and from your videos as well. I love watching your videos.
Thanks. Are you actually on TikTok too?
I am.
Oh, you
yeah,
are? Okay.
I am on both. So
on TikTok, I have no idea who's following me. It's
so much.
many. I don't know who or how.
Yeah,
In the beginning, it used to tell you.
Yeah.
Like you could see the 138 followers.
Uh-huh.
But I went from 138 to like 80,000 almost in like 3 months. Like, whoa, this is crazy.
That's awesome. I mean,
it's good. I love educating. I love teaching. I tell people the reason I'm on YouTube. I've been on YouTube since before it was called YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I've deactivated some of my older videos because I don't agree with the science that the science has changed.
Yeah.
But you can go all the way back to like 2010 and 11. That's like when YouTube started. My lectures and videos have been on there forever, and I love educating, and I don't care. Let people watch it. I'm not going to charge them money. Just go watch and have fun with it. Oh. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.
All right.